Howdy, folks. J3 Buffin here. Today, I'm going to give a little peek behind the curtain for how to go about making Weiss Schwarz custom sets. And I don't necessarily mean the ins and outs of, how to make sure you have all the cards you need, how to do like set balancing and things. I do mean like the mechanical functions of the programs we have available to us for doing that kind of thing. So we're going to be looking mainly at MSC and the Weissim code because I don't think you need to be told how to like go onto Google and grab some images. You can get some suggestion for like where you to go as far as like where you're gonna find the things that you need, and that's gonna kind of vary as well depending on if you are looking at a like screenshot set, like Weiss kind of does already, or if you're just like grabbing some art off the internet, which is what I usually do. Just have art to look through. Just running image searches in Donber, Pixiv, or whatever to find stuff. So we're not going to be running through that part, or even like the word check for effects that exist, right? Like there's Weiss Schwarz card of the day, like in the Discord server, and I guess also on the main site. That's where they post those too. But there's the card databases. There's like multiple of them. People have different preferences. The official ones. There's like Heart of the Cards. There's that one with the green in it that I forget what it is. A couple of other like they're not even on my radar these days. But there's places to go, plenty of places to go for that stuff. But what about actually running the programs that get you there? So we're gonna start with our Magic Set Editor. Now there is there's existing information on how to download this directly from our sources. If you go into the Discord and you hop around in the pins, there's a link to Ron Elm's GitHub that has the information for the Weiss Schwarz part of the Magic Set Editor. And if you Google Magic Set Editor 2, you will find like a place to download this bit. I think also that information is provided on the GitHub page. I think that you can get there a couple of different ways. That's fine. Hypothetically, I would sit down and show you how to do that from a clean copy. Unfortunately, I have done some tweaking to mine that I don't necessarily want to have to go through again. And if I give myself a new set, I can actually kind of show you what I mean by that. So we hit new set. Weiss Schwarz only has one set type, the standard card type. Hypothetically, if people can get Ron Elm the stuff for Rosé or Blau, he would be down to code those in as variations or whatnot, or just templates in their own right. But that is not something that he has made a plan for himself because he doesn't want to grab that stuff himself. If you're interested in making Blau or Rosé custom specifically, grab yourself a copy of an image editing software and just kind of grab some blank templates files to use, create some template files to use, send them his way, and we might be able to get that ball rolling. As it is, standard Weiss Schwarz. We just hit OK, and there we go. Weiss Schwarz accomplished. So, very first thing that we want to sit down and do is have look at set info. And here we have a set name, set ID, subset ID, that the stuff. So, set name is kind of just an internal label. You don't have to worry too much about this. Let's take a random example. I don't know. 100 GFs. arbitrary example, like the 100 GFs the 100 girlfriends who really, 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 really love you. That's a fun little thing. We have that. Set ID. This is, as the little hover over tell you, the 3-letter reference of the series. So in this case, if I look at cards real fast, we'll see we have nothing here. The set ID is going to go before the little dash. So that's going to be the 3 code that denotes it. Something like KNK for rent a girlfriend, OSK for Oshinoko, or HOL for Hololive. So 100 GFs, we could do something like DDK, because that's not an abbreviation that exists already. That's using some JP, kind of like they did for Rent a Girlfriend. Don't worry about it. I should stop using Rent a Girlfriend as my example. And then we have a subset ID, which is letter, number, number. So this is where you put, if it's Weiss, Schwartz, or otherwise, it says letter, number, number. You don't have to keep to that format. You can kind of do whatever you want for it. If you're doing custom set, like I do definitely recommend sitting down actually doing this information. Having a set ID, having a subset ID. And if you're doing a lot of custom sets, like me, it probably would behoove you to come up with a system. Like if you're doing, say, a series of sets that are like Schwartz, right? So you have S, Schwartz. But then to make sure that you don't, so like to indicate that it's a custom set, you might have another letter, like I don't know, something like J, out of nowhere. And then you do, if it's like your first set in that, you go like SJ01, something like that. As this is a Weiss set, I'm actually going to do Weiss instead of Schwartz. And I believe this is actually, I think I have a Weiss side set on file already. So this would be 02 instead of 01? For a safe example, we're just going to do WJ01 here. Side, this is where you choose Weiss, Schwartz, or both. This is something you can also change by card or in the style menu. But we're going to default it to Weiss, and we're not going to mess around with that too much. Is using legacy card images. This is like a backwards compatibility feature as well as the old soul values thing. Those are for just having cards compatible from different versions. If you're on a clean install of MSC, or if you installed it within like, I don't know, the past couple of years even, or at least a year minimum, probably more, you don't need to worry about this. So I'm just going to uncheck this. Then, when we come back here, there's a few other things before we get too serious. As you can see here, by the way, you can see we have our set ID, or subset ID. We have E001. This is a bit of an older copy of MSC. Ron has made a couple of additional updates to options, some of which are at my request, which is ironic that I'm not updating my copy of the sim, but don't worry about it. Okay. If you get the newer copies, you'll have some additional modification you can do. Take away this E, for example, make like a J for JP or stuff like that. We're not going to worry about that. We have here our rarity selector, which double rare plus is like the default. But also, it should never really be like a card default, like double R. We'll come back to this momentarily, though. Let's check this menu real fast. There's at least one thing I want to change here. We have some various options. We have like, if you're going to make SPs, Gonna do like custom rarities for like if you're doing like a premium set and you want all the cards to be normal rarity, you can do like this. If you want it to be only specific, like if you have a specific alt rarity that you want to do, like something like that, just type that in. Yeah, let's undo that. Clear now. Have some other things. The foil stuff I don't really mess around with. The alt art stuff usually also don't mess around with. Serial override just like changes the order of the card. And that you do have to have options specific to that if you want it to like stick. And then other basic stuff. Here's the side override where you change if you want to have like a singular Schwartz card or a set of Schwartz cards in your Weiss set, plain Weiss set, etc. This is how you get different. So we have regular trait boxes. They'll have two right here. Have long trait, which is if you have like a super long secondary trait that you need, or that's going to be common. I forget what set has this. But there are existing sets that do that. The triple trait where it actually gives you 3 separate trait boxes. I'm going to stick to regular for this. And then we have show replay. This is the thing I want to change here. Show replay. By default, partially because Ron Elm is a big fan of replay buttons, replay text. He has the third box, the replay box, available to click into. I'm going to turn this off because I don't want to mess with that. And if you're not making a set that has replay mechanics in it, at least you don't plan to. Even if you plan to, you can just turn this back on, like for option specific for this card, and not have to worry about it. So that you're not when we get back to here, we have rules text box and a flavor text box. If I go back and I turn the replay button back on. So now, there's a little bit of extra hovering you have to do. Make sure that you're hitting this but one, which is the rules text, not this one on the inside, which is the replay text. Right? It just requires a little bit more attention. Whereas if you just like turn this off, you don't have to worry about that. The convenience thing. Nice to me. Okay. So that's that taken care of. So now we have we have our set number, we have our basic card information, set information laid out. Now, how do you go about filling some of this stuff in? The first thing that I would suggest is that you actually make a quote-unquote template card. Something that you can easily copy and paste throughout the process. And in fact, as I go through the process, I'm usually making like a couple of different kinds of template, right? So let's start with since I don't have any traits yet, let's actually start with the climax template. So I'm gonna Control-C, Control-V, just give myself a second copy of this. So that is not R+, but that's not actually gonna matter for this purpose. And it changes from R to climax rare, because those are all the options of rarity that exist in modern Wishboard sets, climax rares. And it changes from character to climax by hitting the little CH logo here in the corner. Goes to climax, DX. And now it's turned it sideways. Cool. So mission accomplished. We write Linux. And I might have some clarifying labels for it in a bit once I know a bit more about what information I'm going to have on these things. And then we also, so yeah, this is climax. We can also do the same for event real quick. Go event, like that. When I've done it a way where I have to clear this, and then change it back to character, so we have one that's back on character. Anyway, we have climax, we have event, and we have, well, we have from here, we set up like a basic character template, and then the idea would be that if you know that you're going to have like multiple characters frequently occurring with specific things going on, you make a separate one for these. I don't actually know for sure what I'm doing with that, but we have a character template. Now, for most Weiss sets nowadays, they have a global trait. It would be something like, say, love, for example. Just taking it out of the ether. Like your generic trait. If you put your global trait in as the first thing on your template, it means you're all, like, you don't have to worry about individually setting this for all your other cards going forward. Another thing that we should do that for real fast is going to be a little set logo thing. This is another place where having templates is useful. The average set sits at like 100-ish cards. With premium sets, you're still looking at, closer to like 50, 60. Even if you just want enough cards to fill up a deck, you're talking about 17-ish cards. That's the minimum number of profiles, not including like 2 climax. Yes, including the 2 climax. You need absolute minimum of 15, including 2 climax. Right? You have climax A, climax B, and then 13 cards, because 13 times 4 is 52. So you can run 4 copies of almost everything but like 1 or 2 cards. But that's also leaving you like bare bones. The deck is always going to look something like that. But even so, that's still like 15 instances of doing a thing. And when you can just do a thing like twice instead of like 15 times, it just feels, saves you in the long run. So we double click set logo. Then we start browsing around. I have this Weiss arts folder. Fortunately, there's nothing NSFW in here to worry about. So, grab this. We can talk a bit about the formatting on these set logos. So, as you can see, you may be able to see, depending on resolution, in the bottom left-hand corner of your copy of MSC, it's going to have this hover over text that says, the set logo, approximate dimensions for character or event, 24 by 60 pixels, climax, 36 by 90 pixels, and 200 DPI, which is a setting that in stuff like GIMP or Photoshop, they provide you as like a resolution information. I don't usually think too much about the DPI when I'm doing these. I just kind of get into those pixel ranges, the 24 by 60 and the 36 by 90, which is usually make a base like image file that has those dimensions, but like scaled up, right? So you have more room to actually design the logo, and then just resizing them, the singular logo down to those 2 more specific dimensions once we get there. Yeah, we have a set symbol. That's the character one. I am just gonna do that individually for event cards. Use the same size as the character ones. Climaxes use a slightly bigger size. But now we have that. So that's our logo for all 3 of these. We don't have to worry about duplicating that anymore. We have our traits. We have our side setting all the same. We have this info, card data all set aside. Then get to basically what would be the meat of the matter, which is starting to actually like put cards together. Grabbing images. Here, go Weiss Arts, 100 folder. Because there's this one artist who just kept doing art, so I have like a bunch of these for them. let's grab, I don't know. Where's Bunny Flat? There's Usami. There's Usami. Okay, so, I'm gonna open this up. We're gonna figure out where. I think honestly, just doing plain like this is probably gonna work because it's gonna work for all the images. Okay, you can do some more tinkering with resolutions and zooms and things to make it look what you want. In later editions of the set editor, Ron has added some like extra functions to kind of help build stuff with that. Apparently sorting by card name. Let's sort by serial instead. So we have that. I like having that like properly in a row. Okay. We have Sami-chan. I copy and pasted the illustrator's name. I'm just gonna do that here. We're gonna be seeing quite a few instances of that as we go through. I do actually. Oh, I didn't put. For all the other characters, I grabbed both their names. I didn't grab both their names. What's that? Where did I put? Get that information real quick. Right, Usami Shiina. Right, okay. Put that in there. Usami Shiina. I do when I'm not actively trying to think of that information. I remember that because Shiina is the name of a VTuber I'm a fan of. Okay, Usami Shiina. We have the illustrator's information. We have global trait, but what would we do for a sub trait for her? Well, she is a little bunny girl, and so a rabbit or something like that would make sense. Alternatively, something like animal would also work. We just let's just sell for animal right now. Hypothetically, if we were gonna think about what this could be like standard legal with, we don't have to worry about that. Kind of put some text together. Leave her in yellow. And change colors here. Copy may or may not have purple. I don't remember. I'm pretty sure the current versions of the MSC do have purple available. So I sent Ron the info for those. Yeah, that's good. Leave her in yellow. And give just some kind of basic abilities. During your turn, this card gets plus 2,000 power. Auto. 1 question mark. This is an important little thing. When doing stock costs, we're just going to type in like a drop search function here. For stock cost, you can put the number. It's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, etc. All the way up to 0, or 9, which is going to give you 9 stock. I have up to 10 on my copy. The official copy may not go as far as that. I don't remember how far he went. But question mark after a number gives you these stock symbols. If you copy paste from most sites, what they'll have is parentheses, number, parentheses. And that does give you a symbol. But it's not quite the right symbol because the zoom is going to have this little box around it, and the sizing isn't quite right. So, number, question mark, that gets you the right symbol. And then we type our text, put 1 card from your hand into your waiting room. This is something that, again, depending on where you're copying your information from, and I do mean copy, because it's so much easier to do copy paste for a lot of Weiss stuff than it is to like type out the same thing every time. Depending on where you get your information, this may say discard one card from your hand, put a card from hand in a waiting room, just stuff like that. Like, not actual current English Weiss card wording, which is kind of a quality control thing to look out for if you want things to look like nice and professional. You want to look at current English text for references. And if you don't have the information that you need, because an effect that you're trying to put together doesn't exist, or just doesn't exist in English, don't worry. We have things that can help you, namely the Discord. You can hit us up there, and yeah, I am more than happy to help with that. But also just the references being like the official Weiss English database, because that's where they keep all the English language version of cards. It's also the one place that's like consistent about it. Like, even like Weiss Tea Time or Discord's card of the day are going to have like their own kind of idiosyncratic like shorthand and whatnot to kind of save some space. It's like, you know what I mean. It's like, yes, you know what you mean. It makes sense. But how do they word on actual cards? Anyway, that's, I think, enough yapping about that. So, when this card is placed on the stage from your hand, you're going to pay the cost. If you do, search your deck for up to 1. Then we get to bracket the traits. How to do trait brackets. In my copy, I have it set up where I can shift and then hit my comma key and my period key twice to get the brackets. Current Ron Elm code is set to triple, from what I remember. So it'd be like 1, 2, 3. But I have modified mine to hit 2 instead. We have name. We have close. Now, some versions of this, like older versions, had it where you could double tap Q and W. Now, you don't want to do that because they introduce a slash symbol tag, or like a symbol tag, and what that does is it'll turn other stuff after what's written into symbols. And you saw that I was able to, like, when I did QQ and I hit backspace, was it QQ? Hold on. QQ. Maybe I'll just fix it. Anyway, it used to be a real problem. Don't use double Q or double W. Instead, use the actual, like, triangular bracket buttons on your keyboard. For me, that's the comma and the period. There might be some other keyboard layouts that do differently, and for that, it's just kind of find which keyboard button has those. Which one? Love character. Reveal it to your opponent. Put it into your hand, shove your deck. Bing, boom. Does like 1500. And that's a card. Bomb. Card information acquired. Then we can, over here, we can throw in a climax. We have this here. I think I need to grab the artist again. I had it on this, so I could have just done it on that for name. Anyway, all I have is the Pixiv ID because I think there's weirdness with their name. But we have, if we go up to here, this little empty trigger icon thing. We click, and we get a drop down list of triggers. I have added some of these triggers myself. The official list ends with choice. Focus some of the other options may or may not be available in current sim copy. I have appended my own to include chance, discover, and focus, which were additions in Blau originally, and then chance and discover were given to the tales of the series sets to kind of those line up better. Like then magnified, bank, anchor, ticket, wheel, rocket, protect, pebble. Those are all customs. And then focus is a new trigger in Million Live, which is just, I think I am going to make this yellow climax a focus trigger. So there's a shortcut for the +1 power and +1 soul text that a lot of climaxes have. CX G1K1, and that fills that information for you. We're copy pasting anywhere. And then for focus, I have just focus. Shortcut puts that in. If we wanted to instead make this, say, a shot climax, leave that there. The code for shot in here is burn. It gets us the information shot trigger. I'd put the shot trigger in here, and then I'd come over here, I'd put a soul in like that. The main version does not have 6 trigger boxes. That's another thing I went in and put in myself. That modifying this is probably a video topic of its own, honestly. There's some weird stuff you can do, where you're looking. Like that. And then if I had added an event, we can just no. Okay. Boy. Drag it down a little bit. Kind of puts him in. I guess that is less. Like, so let's actually. That. What we do. Event text. Just cigarettes. Low accelerated character. Oh, cool. Love character. Waiting room. Turn it to hand. This is equal to the total level of the cards. Puts into the waiting room by this effect. Are regarded. That's level 0. But bing, bada boom. Done. That is from memory, so the text may not be exactly correct, I'm not gonna lie. But something like that. That's what cigarettes is. This is just a plain old 1-0 event, nothing. That's like that'll be fine. Okay. Now I can go in, I can just save that. There. Don't worry about the fact that I already had one of those and actually started doing it. No information was lost. So, that is MSE stuff. There's some other kind of important tools. We have the statistic stuff. You can kind of keep track of how your cards are distributed in a few ways. This one right now we just have a color. If we do by level, you can see we have 2 0 cards, including the climax. I have 1 level 1 card. I can hit a second bubble here, add card type. That shows me I have 1 climax, character, 1 event. That's how they're split up level. Stuff like that. Very nice to have to keep track of, so you don't have to like manually count things. There's still kind of some of that because like you might find yourself in a scenario where you're like, I want to check all of my yellow level, and then also card type does kind of, we get to these kind of weird shapes where it's like hovering over it, it doesn't actually distinguish between these hemispheres for you. It doesn't have the key for this. So the fact that it's 1 character, 1 climax, you have to actually like look and check. But at least the hemisphere kind of gives you an idea of, oh, there's 2 different kinds of card in here. I mean, this is handy to have. And then we have keywords. And keywords is where we have in Magic the Gathering, for which is the original purpose for Magic Set Editor. This is where you have like, oh, flying means this, trample means this, yada yada. Here we have, oh, these are the triggers. These is the trigger shortcuts, like the shortcuts for the text. So that we have like focus, the F, capital F, because I ran out of just special characters to use for this. When this card triggers, choose up to 1 event or cost 0 or lower character in your waiting room and return it to your hand. This is the text of focus trigger. When you type in focus, all lowercase, it'll replace itself with this. In the same way, CXG1K1 fills in this information. We have capital C for continuous. This, which is just like a little space marker. So it kind of puts it a little bit of distance between the all and the continuous box, which I don't like for a lot of cases. So there are a lot of times I was just going to delete that, but this is kind of what all it fills to. We also have things like other shortcuts like encore. You can type encore underscore E. It'll autofill that reminder text for you. We have reminder text files. We have these. We have symbols. There's symbol shortcuts, right? If you type continuous, it'll put C and then a spacer. If you type 1 question mark, you get 1, which is like the stock shortcut. Type CXC, it'll give you a climax combo symbol. I just type in like CXC, that's what that does. If I type replay, it does that, etc., etc. We also have REST for rest. You can also highlight an existing symbol if you know the symbol shortcut. So like what I did there was I highlighted the symbol and then I typed capital S, which replaced it with ACT. And you'd be wondering, well, why isn't capital A for ACT? Because capital A is for auto. Similarly, C for continuous. If I type R, we get replay. If I type lowercase r, we get rest. If I type lowercase b, backup, lowercase clock. Capital B doesn't give you anything. It disappears. Where did it go? Well, it's still there. It's just invisible. Then you just have to kind of like highlight with like shift and like your arrow key to just find a little bit of text. Rid of it. And then, well, now we're back to normal. Fun little things like that. We have where you can modify your soul 1, 2, 0. The rest of these are for those are the legacy ones. You don't have to worry about those. I think that covers just about every. Oh yeah, backup and clock symbol for things like shift or alarm. Those are here. And you can have a card with one of each. Hypothetically, you could have double up for whatever reason. There's not currently any reason to have two of the same symbol, but you might invent a reason. We have costs. We have everything 1 to 10, actually 1 to 15, and then we just kind of skip the 20. Fun. And then level, we don't have a level 4, 1 to 0 to 3, which is all that's kind of needed for current Weiss. Who knows? We might get into something that needs more. Hard to say. Anyway, so that is MSC stuff. That's just kind of most of my day-to-day how I'm using this, put stuff together. Now, real quick, let's talk about coding. So, if you go to where you have your sim installed, I just have it straight in my download folder. Weiss copy. You got Weiss data, streaming assets, parts. And inside you will find the set folders, or rather the property folders, right? We have stuff like Usami, we have World Trigger, Eurocam, Zombie. But this is just about every set in the sim. There's a couple of them that have been kind of relegated to the background. It's like legacy cards, legacy sets, so that the data is just kind of there, it's safe. You don't have to worry about it. But this is kind of the bread and butter of the cards, all the code that goes into them, the set distinctions, what sets are like neo standard together, also kind of gets played with here. This is the meat of the matter, so to speak. So, if you want to add a custom set, here's what we got to do. New folder. We're going to call this 100 GFs. All right, I'm going to open this folder. I'm going to create new text documents. I'm going to call this one single set data. I'm going to call this one card data. These are the two things that you need for every set. Bong, bong. Open my copy of WordPad. Have WordPad plus instead of base WordPad. Any sort of basic text editor, anything that can open TXT files, save things as TXT files is going to get you there. I like Notepad++ because it has some convenience features that we may or may not be able to see what we're doing. So, what I recommend when you're going in to make a new set folder is to open an existing one. Let's just take Adventure Time, for example. Go down to their card data. See how we have series, folder, prefix, set name. Rather than trying to remember this, I just copy and paste. So I go C, Control V. Then close this, I'm done. Then I go back here. So, series is love you. Really? Really love it. Folder we have it in 100 GFs. If we had a subfolder, like if I go to Hololive real quick, we have each of these individual folders, and we see in the single set data, they have the series, and then we have each of these folders kind of detailed. We have folder, prefix, set name, and then folder prefix and set name are duplicated for every instance that we have. We also see this little file name premium card data. If we look in W36, you see we have named it. We have premium card data as the information for the where the card that information is. I don't know why they did that for this particular set, but they did. There's stuff you can do like that, but we don't need to worry about that. We're here for the basic, bare bones bullshit. So, folder, prefix, setting. Folder is 100GF. Prefix is what we set in our MSC copy. DDK WJ01, and then set name. We're actually just gonna put 100GFs set 1. If we had a second set, what we might do, we have like WJ1, WJ2, and then gonna have it set up like this. But we don't need to do that. So we're not going to do that. Leave it like this. Save that. This is all the information we need for single set card data, so that if you go into the sim, it'll be able to find this information for you. It'll know that this is the series title, so it'll alphabetically sort it by T, I remember. Actually, I'm going to change this to 100, so I'll sort as a number. In fact, what I like to do sometimes is just put like a couple A's in front, and I'll kind of auto load it to the top, which can be handy when you just want to get instant access to it. Folder 100GFs, prefix DDK, set name. That'll be when we go by, start looking at cards, we go by set. Okay. Then we have card data. Now, card data is a little bit more involved. Once again, I didn't have to close, but I did. We open a sets card data. We grab a very basic. Extra time is kind of a, for example, but it lets me point out some stuff that I kind of want to talk about. So we copy a card. We're going to turn this into, stay with me, a template. We can then autofill with other information. Let's start with what we're getting rid of. We're getting rid of this thing, this image information. If for some reason your image files are named kind of different things. So like if you had your first card, the image was named like duck. You would type image space duck, and it would know to associate that image with this card. We don't need that because we're going to be exporting directly from MSC. And MSC just has the card information, like the card names, in the format where it doesn't need to do any special image reference. We don't need that. Get rid of that. I'm going to go here. I'm going to insert the basic information. So I have DDK, WJ01. This is card number 1. And it does have the E. I'm going to put the E. Get rid of name information, which I'm then just going to copy paste here. Color is yellow. Level is 0. Power is like 100. Have our traits. Clear that. Okay. I'm then going to take this away, gonna take that away, take that. So I'm gonna fix animal, that's what we did. And then just shave that. So this is now a copy-pastable template for character cards. right? It'll have the trait info, all the empty boxes which you want, the name, color, the level, the cost, the power, inserted global trait, subtrait, some blank space where we'll put card information, and an end card so that it knows we're actually ending the card. And then up here where we can put our card number. If I was going to have multiple colors in the set, right? Most sets will. You can do the same thing, have like G, R, B, and you can also write out purple. And it'll denote that it's a purple card in the set, which we won't need for today's exercise. But it may come up later. So we have that. The next thing we're going to want is event. There's a couple of ways you could do this. The easiest is going to be scrolling down to your template, like one of the pre-existing set, finding an event, emptying the text that you need, and going from there. So, for example, Demon Bloodsword. Now, the other thing is that you could take this character template and you could see what is different about an event. An event doesn't have traits, right? Character is not an event, it's not a character, it's an event. It has a card number for our purposes. Boyfriend is still yellow, 1, 0. Doesn't have a power either because it's an event, but it does have is an effect. So we need to set aside a place for an effect, and we need to set aside a text box. So here, text, effect with some brackets going on, cost, level, color, name. That's all you need for an event. Cool. Now what about a climax? And again, we can do kind of this same thing. We take the character template, although we can actually use the event. Less things we have to get rid of. Get rid of the cost and level. We have effect and text. But a climax doesn't actually need either. In fact, most climaxes just have a name, and then this little thing here. This asterisk choice climax tells you if I go and change this from event to climax, 3, and we change the name. This will indicate that this is a choice climax. It is a climax that follows all the indications of what choice does. But we didn't make a choice climax. We made a focus climax. If you open, go back to our cards folder. If we go to streaming assets, we open this common effects file. Common effects file is a reference point for a bunch of things that the system kind of shortcuts. Like, for example, a red level 0 bomb. This is a character that, on reverse, if the opponent is level 0 lower, reverses them as well, which is typically the effect that red level 0 characters have on reverse, like their like removal, quote unquote effect. But level 0 bomb is like you probably know Weiss words, right? Here, because you know what a Weiss Schwartz is. That will track. So we scroll down a little bit. We could find it that way. I'm going to Control F. Choice climax. This is the information for our choice climax right here. And we see this is the information that makes up a climax. We have color, we have a trigger, we have the 1K1 effect, continuous yada. We have the text box that tells you what the trigger does, and the text box that tells you what this continuous block is. So we copy paste this information gonna delete those. Clear that up. Now, this would raise a question. We have a focus trigger. How do you write a custom trigger? Well, I've already done that a couple of times. I open my Persona Survival set. I just copy paste this information. Lickety split. No time at all. Barely an inconvenience. Obviously, this is not going to be the case for if you're doing this at home. So let's look at what a custom trigger icon means. We have custom trigger icon, name of the trigger. This defines the hey, I'm going to have a custom trigger icon in here. This is the name of it. Custom trigger effect, name of trigger. Then open up a little bit where you type what the effect is. Right, this is the code that describes what this does. If this needed a soul icon, I that. We write custom trigger soul and the name of the icon, and this kind of that in. And that would say every time that a focus climax is triggered, it also has a soul trigger attached to it. That's how that would work. Then we come down here. We would change the trigger from the focus. We keep the 1K1 effect, and then we also take the effect text, focus, copy, paste. And voila, there's that stuff going. Now this is the majority of the process. A lot of coding is going to be copy and pasting. A lot of sim coding is copy and pasting. You look for things that exist already that match the information that you need. Copy, you paste, you complete there. The thing is, not every set is made equally. Some sets are unreliably coded, even though they were made by the team that runs the sim. Sometimes they just have bugs that make them nigh unusable as references. Like if we, for example, Oshinoko sets. Set 1, set 2, the base sim files have just loads of things that do not make them functional references. As of April 7, 2026, there have been several efforts by various community members to fix this. It's still kind of an issue if you just download the base set. Lyco Reco is in a similar state, where it's just like you using those card effects for references. There's risks involved that's just not going to be a thing. Luckily, this is not true for every set that has effects. Like for example, Hololive stuff. But like Hololive set 2. If card effect that you want is in Hololive set 2's card pool, code for it in this text file should be what you're looking for, where you can copy, test, paste a block of code, like if it was a Ricky. You just copy, paste this block of text, bam, card is now a Ricky. It'll do the Ricky effect when played. Mission accomplished. For what we're doing here, actually, we have the... I can actually do this with common effects. If we go drop search, because we have a drop, we know what a drop search is. The sim also has it pre-coded. I can just type this. Drop search love. I'll search for love trait cards on play, pay 1, ditch 1. Search your deck for a character with that trait. That's solved. Similarly, I gain 2,000 power on my turn. Correct? Yes. I gain 2,000 power on my turn. I can write power on my turn, 1,000, and be done. If you don't know if something is a common effect or not, you don't know the name for it, it gets a bit trickier to find. And at that point, what you'll probably end up doing is just finding a card that exists already, has that effect, and looking at the code that it has. Sometimes it'll have a common effect attached to it. Other times, it'll just have code written out. There are some effects that are quote unquote common that the sim does not have a common effect coded for in this little text file. You could theoretically modify this to include more effects. I have not done so because that would not work carried over to other people's copies of the sim if you send them the set file, right? You'd have to send them the common effects file to replace. That introduces some bugs where then if they want to play the set with someone who doesn't have that common effects file, if you send someone a custom set, the process of including a custom set in the sim is that you download the folder that you've created, or that someone else has created, into the cards folder. And if it's properly set up, it has the single set data text, has the card data text. Theoretically, as long as all that transfers over appropriately, you can just open the set. But you do have to have that information given to you to play the cards. Right. If I deleted my copy of Adventure Time and someone tried to play Adventure Time against me in the Steam multiplayer, they would not be able to do so because I do not have a reference copy of the set to play. If I deleted everything, like all the card images out of here, and I left the card data, or if I modified the card data in some way, and I played against an opponent, I would be able to play them, and as long as they're hosting a lobby, right? If I go into their lobby, Adventure Time will work as it's coded for them. Unfortunately, that would also mean whatever set that I'm playing, would be their code, which is why you have to give, whoever's hosting has to have the copies of both players' sets and have them be corrected, which happens fairly often. When I sit down with someone to test a custom set and we find an error, I have to make the correction to mine, and then they have to make the correction to theirs, so that whichever one of us is hosting the lobby, the set works. Kind of a little bug we have to think about. But okay, yeah. Then we can just kind of do some cigarettes. We copy paste this text into the text box, and then we now I could either sit down and I could just grab this from a set, or I could just kind of wing it real fast. Total level search waiting room compare. Search waiting. Yeah, that hypothetically would also do it, right? And then the fun part. You open up your copy of the sim, deck editor, I've made sure to save this. Now here's what's going to happen, right? I'm going to load this, and it's going to come up with an image error. It has the card information for these things, but it does not have an image. Now, why is that? Because I didn't give it any images to load. But you can see that even without card images, it does actually have like this info, the continuous, the auto, the traits, the name. It doesn't have a power for the character that you can see here. That information is still stored. Also, defaults to 1 soul on characters. If I needed it to have extra soul, type like that, or even soul 0 if it didn't have any soul. You don't have to type out soul 1. Some set designers will type it out every time. You don't need to do that. Save yourself the trouble. But yeah, so we need to get some images into this 100Fs folder, which I'm going to accomplish this way. I'm going to go to File, I'm going to go to Export, go to HTML, and do entire set, export images yes. Okay. I'm going to find that folder. I'm going to make some gobbledygook. I'm going to hit save. It's going to give me this error, which is good because this prevents it from creating excess files that we don't want. We go into this folder here. Control A, Control X. Go back a folder, Control V. Delete this folder. This folder existing will not interfere with anything, but it's just clutter, so get rid of it. So now, what we should have are the three image files. So where if I reopen my copy of the sim, I go to deck editor, and I hit search. The cards are there. So hey, look, we have these. They now exist. And then if you had a full set, you could fill it out with whatever. We can actually just go to some random other sets and start adding cards. I can go like Avatar. I can turn that button off. Just grab like Appa. We can just like fill out a deck list from here. Just kind of throw in some random stuff. I forget what other sets have love trait in them. What other sets? Love. Trait love, no. And then we can just run this until the end of time. But yeah, hypothetically, you would just continue running through this, and then you'd eventually fill out a testable deck. Let me go ahead and grab this. Go phone for deck list. I just rip some things out here for girlfriend stuff. Great love. That. Just roads. Okay, cool. Now this is how I do testing a lot of times. I just kind of throw stuff together. So like I'll find, if I was gonna test this properly, I'd probably actually grab like another set with a love trait, fill it out like that. I didn't do that, so we're not doing that this time. We're just we're locking and loading versus computer. Load the deck. We have the climax, which is good. I'm gonna throw away my hand. Do I see the? Yeah, we have the event and the character. Good. Let's flag here. Okay. Now we're going to enter the fun part of this. Control D when you're playing against an AI or against yourself. Just like that. The another one on the front. I do versus computer just because it reduces left. So I play this. It has 3500 because it's during my turn, and we correctly coded power, base power, and we borrowed the common effect for power on my turn. So that works. I'm then going to go Control D, level myself up to 1. Put that in my level. I am then going to check waiting room. Don't have another love character. What I'm going to do is go check to waiting room, send these. She's now there. And then I'm going to play the event. Now we're going to come up with an error. Now, what is the error, you may ask? Well, error in if statement. Not enough parameters for if condition error. Compare that card's level X. What is missing here is that there is no or lower after the compare. So it didn't actually know what way to, direction to compare it. Alright, cool. We'll miss this. We'll close this. Reopen this in. Press the computer. Test. Second. And once again, we have all this stuff. We're going to do this. Okay. We won't clock. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to hit the plus stock button. We can check job search. A1. Which one? Search. Well, let's find specifically more copies for Usami Shiina. There you go. Copy her. Bing. Level up. We need yellow. Play the event. Mills 2. Finds us a level 0 character. We milled a level 1 total, but she's the only target we have. Bada bing, bada boom. Now what I can do is go fix top deck and set the focus on top. Climax attack. This triggers. This lets us grab level 1 and a cost 0 or event. It's all working as intended. Good. Means that everything is correct. Now, obviously, if you're making more cards, you don't want to have to do this card by card, right? So, ideally, what you do is you fill out a decent number of profiles. So maybe not necessarily you might need to do a full 15 or so. If you're doing a lot of copy and pasting, that's perfectly fine. You're just kind of stitching effects together. You're making sure that in places, the traits were changed correctly, climax names were changed correctly, like that. Make sure all that's good to go. If you're doing some more experimental code, if this the cigarettes event was something weirder, and I had to I did custom hand code this, but if I was doing something more weird with it, and I needed to make sure that it worked, you might jump the gun on testing it, find some kind of workarounds, or just kind of some filler in deck list to kind of make that work. Just kind of play it out by ear, kind of on that. The main takeaway that I want to offer is this code part is honestly only as complicated as you make it, right? A lot of Weiss is pre-existing code information, right? Pre-existing information that re-divided in kind of, chopped and screwed, but in and of itself, at its core, it's still the same thing. A drop search is a drop search in just about every set it exists in. The thing that changes is the trait attached to it, but all these cards are drop searches. The during my turn get X power exists in bajillions of places. The number of power, like the amount of power you get, is going to be different. But that same idea exists everywhere. Cigarettes event exists a bunch of places. Focus doesn't exist, and we did have to sit down and actually like have that coded up. Where you see we have this code that says like, oh, cost 0 or lower characters. Little thing here to make it like a or split these from event and characters, so it's not checking for both events and characters. This looks complicated. I know. And honestly, it probably is complicated. I shouldn't pretend that it isn't. This is a lot to take in if you don't know what you're looking at. When you're starting, you won't. But that's what that sort of like copy paste thing is there. This is why Weiss is actually a great use of this kind of setup, because it is a lot of the same effects copy pasted over it. Right? You can look at what information is given for a card in Weiss, like find the closest equivalent to what you're looking for. And honestly, when you're starting out as a creator for Weiss stuff, like copy and pasting profiles is perfectly fine. Even when you're not starting out and you're just trying to say make a set that feels like a Weiss set. You know, Weiss has Weiss has a bunch of stuff that exists, and it copies and pastes itself all the time. Why not just save yourself some trouble? Do the same thing. It is perfectly fine. There are some people who can get kind of big heads about it and judge you for it. You don't need to listen to those people. If all you're doing is trying to learn how to do something, you don't have to be great at it right away. Start with the easy stuff. And the easy stuff is searching up cards that exist, opening their card data sheets, copying, pasting, making alterations that you need to for things. Name, card numbers, traits, probably. Calling it a day. And then going in, making sure it all works. If you go in and make sure your thing works, you're already doing more work than some people working on the sim as it exists today. I think I've got enough on enough soapboxes and whatnot today. I think this is an okay ADHD or rambling edition of how to set up a custom Wishboard set at its absolute basic. Using MSC, having the card, making the card images, and then opening up sim code, getting a set up, and doing what you need to make sure it functions. I think that it's not terribly detailed. Some of it may be hard to follow, but this is kind of what I'm doing just about every time I sit down to make a Weiss set. There are probably some things that I can cover in additional videos or in like the questions and comments to maybe clear some stuff up. There may also be some time spent in a later video actually looking at the documentation. There is a Excel sheet that just has all of the kind of existing commands available to the Weiss sim for what it can do, that you can use to maybe kind of do some stuff that doesn't exist on Weiss cards but is theoretically doable in the sim. That's kind of something I've had some fun with in the past, figuring out just weird shit that you can do because, this is code. This is, fill in the blanks. What weird stuff can you have? Like, you could set this to say, to set X value total level, winning room is climax. Not reference the X at all. It sets an X, it doesn't do anything. Lets you grab a climax. If it's doable in here, it's like you can do goofy stuff. very goofy things. But yeah, anyway. Losing focus, as is wont for someone with ADHD. I feel like I've somewhat accomplished my mission. If I haven't accomplished my mission, if you look at this video and you feel more confused, I am sorry. That is possible. Ask any questions you have either in the custom Discord or at me at DMs on Discord or in the comment section of this video. What any of that stuff works. If you just want to see, if it would be helpful to just have me sitting down and doing some coding from a set in a sim, I'm like, doing that. If there's the actual process of like, what do you put in a set? How do you choose effects and whatnot? If that's something people would also like information on, cool. I would be happy to provide it. Not the video for that, I don't think. But yeah, with all that, I think I'm good. This has been J3 Puffin. Bye.